Hi, Michael King from the Cosmosis Mentoring Centre. Today I want to share about the signs that your relationship may be over. Should you be considering divorce? Now, always seek professional help before you bail out on a marriage, especially when there are children involved. Having been there and done that, I want to share some of my understanding in the hope that it provides you with some clarity during a very confusing and stressful time. All couples face trials and challenges, and some problems can seem so insurmountable that divorce seems like the only solution. Marriage counsellors observe, however, that the size of the problem is not the biggest sign that a marriage is about to end. Some couples manage to work things out, even something as serious as infidelity. Others are quicker to walk away. So how do you know that your partner is interested in fixing things or is about to throw in the towel? Counsellors notice some behavioural patterns that indicate that someone has already become emotionally detached. This, they say, is the death knell of a marriage or a relationship. In essence, your partner has given up emotionally. These are the indicators. Is there an unwillingness to recognise the problem? Any problem can be solved if you're willing to confront it and to work on it. But if your partner believes that everything's fine, that you're either imagining the problem or making it bigger than it should be, then you're not going to get anywhere. If they don't admit there's a problem at all, then they are not going to change their behaviour. And you're just going to be frustrated, resentful, and eventually probably furious with the situation. It's important for the couple to see that what they do or don't do affects the relationship. That's where the power is. If that doesn't happen, the only choice open to you is to live with the problem or to walk away. Is there an unwillingness to believe that things can get better? Your partner may see the problem, but doesn't want to do anything about solving the problem. Maybe they think it's just the way I am, or just the way things are. They don't really care if you are hurt or if the relationship is on the rocks. They have withdrawn emotional investment in the marriage. And sometimes all the talking and sharing that goes into couples counselling just reveals that the other person knows the issue and how the other feels, but that it no longer matters to them. Then you've got a real problem. Is there conflict of fundamental values or vision for the future? Sometimes a couple can deeply care about each other, but just seem to be going in different directions. You can have very different ideas of what you want for your lives, the values you care about, and the future you foresee for yourself and your family. For example, you may want to focus on your career, and that means moving to another city with greater opportunities and chances of advancement. Your partner, on the other hand, wants a quieter life. He wants a partner who's content to lead the quiet life, maybe wants a wife that's just home with the kids. Well, that's just not going to work. No one's wrong, no one's right, that's just not going to work for each other. You want different things in life. So on to whether to stay or go. When couples reach this point of clarity, there's a deep problem and no way around it. A difficult choice must be made. Marriage counsellors say that no matter what happens, this is the turning point towards happiness. It's only going to get better. If you decide to work things out because your relationship is worth fighting for, then the two of you may even find a deeper love commitment than you have ever had. If you decide to end it, then both of you are free of a relationship that was dragging you both down. No one really gets into a marriage thinking that they might have to get a divorce later on down the road, and even for those who may get married for the wrong reasons, divorce is never an easy option. After all, you still end up making plans and creating dreams together as a couple. When that ends for one reason or another, breaking up is a serious and tough nut to crack. It's hard. Making the decision to file for divorce is not an easy one, as many will tell you. Before you actually make the decision, you have to go through a lot of things. You'll be asking yourself a lot of questions, consulting a lot of people. Here are some of the toughest questions that you need answered. Important to consider these. 1. Is there enough of the marriage left to salvage? This question could very well be the hardest to answer. That is why it's number 1. Who can ever say that there is enough of the marriage to save? Or who can say that there is no hope? At the end of the day, the only answer to this question will come from you, from your heart. Only you will know the answer to this question. No one can really tell you. Of course, arriving at the answer is not an easy task. You might even need some help to discern the answer, to get clear on your feelings, but ultimately the answer must come from how you feel. It's a good idea to talk it over with your spouse if this is possible. You can also talk to trusted friends and relatives who can give you advice. More so, get in touch with a professional therapist or counsellor, someone who's not involved personally in your life. An objective point of view is always helpful. Now, the second thing to consider, do you still love your spouse? This is another very hard question that only you can answer. You know that. Before you actually ask for a divorce, you need to be able to unequivocally say that you do not have any of these feelings of love for your spouse anymore. This could be because I'm kind of old school, but I do believe that if you still really love your partner, then there's hope and you can try to work things out. But both people have to be willing to work on it. Of course, this is barring any other complications, such as abuse in any form. If your best reason for divorce is that it doesn't seem to be working, however, I suggest you delve a bit deeper and do some personal growth together. If you find that there is still love between the two of you, then it might not be the right time to consider getting divorced. Another thing to consider, is one of you an addict? When I say addict, I'm referring to various issues: gambling, drugs, alcohol. If one of you has a serious addiction, it's going to be the source of unrest in your marriage as long as it's not being dealt with, as long as it's not being treated and healed. If at least one of you suffers from a serious addiction and that person's not willing to seek professional help or treatment, then you just might have to consider divorce. For as long as that problem is not solved, your marriage can only continue to degrade and perhaps ultimately break down anyway. Is one of you having an affair with someone else? You bring a third party in, it changes everything. Neither of you may be addicted to gambling or some other substance, but if a third party comes into the picture, then divorce could very well be the option you choose. However, you have to realise that many married couples have gone beyond affairs to rebuild their marriages, and some people end up with a stronger, healthier relationship for it. What you need to determine at this point is whether the one who has been having the affair is willing to go the distance to rebuild the marriage. This means totally putting an end to the affair and stopping any communication with the third party. If that step cannot be taken, then divorce is probably the way to go. Is your marriage an abusive one? I've talked about this on other videos. Perhaps your partner has always been faithful and has never taken on any other partner. However, if there is some form of abuse in the marriage, it could be just as serious as infidelity. Abuse can come in many forms: physical, verbal and emotional. I've talked about this extensively in other videos, so I suggest you watch those. Whichever form of abuse you may be taking or giving, it does not lessen the pain and the problems. If the abuser does not seek help in order to stop the abuse, then the answer is simple: divorce. Do you really want a divorce, or do you just want to threaten? Sometimes, due to the rush of emotions, a person thinks he or she wants a divorce, but in reality, this may just be a threat. you need to sit down and really think about it long and hard and really feel into what's going on in your heart space. Is it really a divorce you want, or are you merely testing the waters to see what the idea of divorce can do to the marriage? And the last one, why do you want a divorce? And really, let's look, why do you want a divorce? Last but definitely not the least, you need to ask yourself why you want or think you want a divorce. You ought to delve as deep as you possibly can, no matter how painful it will be, and pinpoint concrete reasons why you are considering a divorce. Only when you have the real reasons can you decide for sure if you really want to go through a divorce. For some, divorce is the only answer. For others, they may choose to pick up the pieces and start rebuilding. Whatever it is that you choose, it is my hope that you make the right decision for yourself and that you do so without any regrets, and you both move forward in love and growth. Let's talk about some misconceptions surrounding divorce. You know, it's sad that even in this day and age, divorce carries a stigma. It's crucial that we see divorce for what it is, a simple decision to end a marriage. Everything else is just bias and judgment. Prejudice doesn't help the matter, and that needs to be set aside. There are some myths that propagate this stigma around divorce. Critics of divorce often make comments like they took divorce as an easy way out. People who are against divorce think that couples are running away from their problems, and if they just stuck it out and worked harder, then their marriage could have been saved. The fact is that most couples do try, but realise it isn't working, and the decision to have a divorce is anything but the easy way out for most people. It is wrought with emotions and painful sacrifices and consequences, and can often be expensive and very messy. Anyone who has ever been through it knows that it is not an easy way out at all, but seemed like a necessary choice to make positive change in your life. Another misconception is that it is always someone's fault. No one can cause a divorce. It takes two people to make a marriage, and it takes two people to break a marriage, and two people to decide that it's time to make the change and ultimately get divorced. Counsellors say that even if someone was deeply hurt by a partner because of, say, infidelity or abuse, the most healing thing that he or she can do is to stop thinking like a victim and acknowledge one's role in the breakdown of the marriage. We each make mistakes. We each contributed to the problem, and yet we learn and are now ready to make better choices for ourselves. Another misconception is that you should become good friends with your ex. And that would be great. That's the ideal, but it isn't always realistic. You may still need space and time to deal with emotional issues and hurt. Or there could have been irreconcilable differences that will still exist. Don't put pressure on yourself or your partner. You can be civil and even have a decent working relationship when it comes to raising your kids, but friendship can never be forced, and maybe it's just not possible. Maybe it'll come with time. Don't feel like a failure or brand yourself as bitter or angry just because you don't feel like hanging out and being best friends with your ex-partner. Another misconception is that divorce means I'm not cut out for marriage. Maybe you weren't meant to be married to that person, but that doesn't mean you weren't meant to ever be married at all. You aren't condemned to repeating old patterns and habits, nor do you have a serious personality flaw that makes you ineligible for any real commitment. It just didn't work out that time. Live and learn from the experience. It's true that time heals all wounds, but divorce is always a very difficult transition. Get some professional help to make sure that you'll become wiser from the experience. One of our counsellors here at the Cosmosis Mentoring Centre, Linda Cohen, specialises in grief and loss. You might like to do some work with her to help you with the transition. Thanks for listening. I hope the journey ahead for you is full of love, personal growth and wonder. perhaps we might see you sometime soon at one of our Cosmosis transformational events. Keep on loving.